Today is Friday, March 15th, and we're going to go around the bases with our MLB insider at the New York Post. He is none other than Jon Heyman. Jon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well. We are less than 2 weeks away from opening day, and it's been a little bit of a whirlwind for local fans here in New York, especially Yankees fans. Jon, you've been all over this story with Gerrit Cole. You were with the exclusive last night after meeting with Dr. Neil Elitrosh. How that meeting went. You broke the news that Cole looks like he's only going to miss 1 to 2 weeks, and the fear of Tommy John surgery doesn't seem to be happening with Cole. So, can you just describe and discuss exactly the timeline of events here this week and how that meeting went with Elitrosh last night?
All right. That was a great synopsis. I appreciate it. 1 to 2 months or a little bit more, we said. So, obviously this was a big relief for the Yankees because when you go out to see this surgeon and considered the best sports surgeon in the country is Dr. Elitrosh, the fear was certainly that Tommy John could be on the table at that point. And Neil Elitrosh basically agreed with the Yankee doctors, did not find any kind of tear to this point. Now, there is inflammation, there is swelling there. Situation is still a little bit fluid, no pun intended. So we shall see. But for now, I think the Yankees should feel very good about the situation compared to how it looked a couple of days ago when he was going out to visit the surgeon. So, yes. And in terms of the timetable, when I said 1 to 2 months, that's 1 to 2 months. And I said a little bit more into the season. So, that meant potentially May 1st to June 1st, maybe a little bit more. And, these are all estimates at this point because we don't know exactly how long he's going to have to rest. Then he's going to have to rehab. He's going to have to ramp up. I think, frankly, that the Yankees would probably sign up for June 1st. They'd probably sign up for the 2 months now. You never know how these things are going to go. And they have to be obviously very cautious with the best pitcher in baseball. But much better news today than it was a couple of days ago when he was going out to see the surgeon. Right now, we have 5 doctors who agree it's worth trying to rest, to rehab, conservative treatment, get him back on that mound. Maybe if they're lucky, sometime in May. More likely June 1st or thereabouts. And obviously missing a third of the season, not great news, but where we were 2 days ago, I think they can feel very good about the situation.
It's a great way to put it, Jon, especially when you think about the worst case scenario. You hear Tommy John and elbow with Gerrit Cole originally this week, and you're like, oh, here we go. The season hasn't even started. You just lost your most important player, arguably, besides Aaron Judge and Juan Soto on this team. So when you're saying 1 to 2 months and you're saying that May 1st is probably the earliest, June 1st is more likely, is that accounting for the ramp up he probably needs to be built back up into a starter for the Yankees, and maybe even mid June or late June is more realistic? Or are you just going to say, let's just hope for the 1 to 2 months, see how he does rehab before we even start speculating when he actually could come back to this rotation?
Right. No, well, we're counting everything when I'm talking about June 1st as a realistic possibility. Possibility again. Don't want to be held to this because obviously, if the Yankees were held to all of their health pronouncements, it just isn't realistic. We just don't know how long it's going to take. Like I said, I think they would sign up for 2 months into the season. June 1st, Gerrit Cole gets the ball for the Yankees. He's missed 2 months, still got several months to go, at least 2/3 of the season then to go. I think they would take that at this point. But again, these are all estimates. He's certainly going to miss at least a month. And, we're talking about resting, rehabbing, re-ramping up. Could easily be 2 months or more into the season. We hope it's not 3 months, but
Right.
certainly could be 2 months rather easily into the season. So that would be a June 1st start.
Yeah, I think, Jon, especially if you're a Yankee fan, I think you have to be a little bit sigh of relief, but also excited that you could possibly see Gerrit Cole coming back before the All-Star break. I think that's an absolute win when you consider where we are at the beginning of the week. So you have to look at the positive here and hope that the rehab goes well and that Gerrit Cole comes back to form. And before you know it, if you're still, in that top 2 or 3 in the AL East, the Yankees could be ready to roll then when he comes back.
Well, look, if you needed Tommy John surgery, this year was gone, and then at least some part of next year would be gone too, because 12 months is not really realistic for a starting pitcher. They would have gone into next year too injured. So this is a big relief that he does not need Tommy John surgery, and he's going to be able to do this. We think, and there's no guarantees when it comes to the health, as we've seen time and time again with the Yankees and other teams, frankly, to be fair. So, we're looking at, again, rest, rehab, re-ramp. I'm guessing here, June 1st, based on the interviews that I've done and their guesses and trying to put it together. But again, no guarantees on the exact time that he will be back.
Awesome. And Jon, finally, just to wrap this part up and before my next question, I just want to ask you, is there confirmation, no matter what, with Elitrosh and the other doctors, there is no partial tear? There's no tear in that UCL. He's not dealing like a Masahiro Tanaka situation a couple of years back with the Yankees where he pitched through the partial UCL tear. There is no tear, I'm assuming, in Gerrit Cole's elbow?
They have found no tear, and they've done MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, whatever they need to do. I'm not a doctor. I'm just playing one here on the video, but they have not found a tear to this point. Is it possible there's a micro tear that they weren't able to see due to the swelling? I mean, I'm not going to rule it out, but 5 doctors have seen him. They've given every test possible, and right now they feel pretty comfortable that this is the right course of action to take. I'm glad you brought Tanaka, right? He pitched through with a small tear. Pettit obviously pitched through with a weakening in his elbow ligament, was able to do it. Obviously had a fantastic career for a long time after the ligament issue was discovered. So, guys can pitch effectively. Look, he was throwing 95. He had good command. The issue was the recovery.
Yeah.
So perhaps the rest, rehab, conservative treatment, whether includes a shot or some other mode. I'm not sure. Again, not a doctor, but they're feeling much better about it than they did 2 days ago.
So let's talk about this Yankees front office. They're getting this information from Elitrosh last night and Gerrit Cole himself. So when they're looking at this now, and the prognosis is 1 to 2 months, possibly a little bit more, but how are they going to address this rotation? Is it going to be just let's go into, like I said, less than 2 weeks away from opening day? Are they going to go in with the current rotation as it stands? Or could you see them making a move? Because we talked about this on a couple of episodes here already. Blake Snell's still a free agent. Jordan Montgomery's still a free agent. You've heard Michael Lorenzen's name get thrown out there. We saw Dylan Cease get traded to the Padres this week. So starting pitching's there, and it's available for the Yankees if they want to go for those prices. That's the question to you, Jon, and that's why you're the insider. Do you feel like the Yankees are going to make a move here?
I'll put it this way. They better not go in with the rotation that they've got, because I didn't think they had the depth, and a lot of other people did not think they had the necessary depth even before Cole went out. And again, 1 to 2 months, that's probably a conservative estimate. Like I said, it's probably going to be the 2 months and maybe a little bit more, as I said. So, we're taking off from the top, not the bottom either, right? So right now they're discussing their opening day starter. I don't know that they've named one, but I mean, right now that rotation that they have is not a great one. You take off number 1 starter from any team, it's going to be an enormous hit. And they're going to have to figure out which one of these kids will fit in as the 5th starter now. I mean, they like some of them, certainly Warren, some of the other guys, Heel, they like a little bit, and maybe they will perform. They had guys last year that came up and performed, and they were all traded to San Diego for Soto, right? So, Vasquez and the others are all gone. And, right now their rotation looks very, very thin. So they better do something. I'm not saying you have to get Snell. I thought Cease was a great option at the White Sox. They liked Spencer Jones. I don't know if they were going to be able to work out a deal anyway, because, they like the San Diego players apparently. And I'd say they like Texas's prospects as well. And San Diego ended up beating out Texas to get them. Yankees were really not even involved at the end. Now, Cease to me was the one who made sense.
Right.
He's a potential top of the rotation starter who's making $8 million. So that tax at 110% was another $9 million, $17 million. So, that's not that much for the New York Yankees. The issue with Cease, and he's the obvious solution, because you're losing at least for the month or 2 months, and we'll see how long, a Cy Young winner, bringing another Cy Young winner, but he's a $30 million pitcher probably. So that's $33 million in tax. That's $63 million. So, George Steinbrenner would probably do it. I'm not ripping on Hal for this. George Steinbrenner was one of a kind, right? He probably would have gone out and said, we're taking Snell, whatever it is, let's get him. But, Hal Steinbrenner is a businessman, and, most people don't like the idea of paying $33 million extra in tax, even
Right.
above and beyond. So I can't say that's a likelihood, but to me, that's the obvious solution since you're not getting Cease. The other ones, obviously, we know that Lorenzen's still out there, Clevenger's still out there. I don't see them going for Bauer. I would say that's basically zero chance for the Yankees. I don't even know if he's going to get a job anywhere, but I mean, Cole was the first guy who identified Bauer as a problem personality when they were together at UCLA. And can you imagine that college rotation, the talent? But they didn't. They basically do not speak. And Cole is a huge part of this team. Even if he's out for 1, 2, even 3 months, they're not going to insult him by bringing Bauer. The other 29 teams don't have a guy who hates Bauer on the team, and they still don't bring him in. So I'm not blaming him for not doing that. Obviously, he was throwing 99 out here, right on this
Yeah.
field out here in Glendale. I'm in Phoenix right now, or Glendale, and he could help, but it's a huge PR hit. It's a huge issue, the biggest domestic violence ban ever. I don't blame them for not doing that. So there aren't a ton of options. Luzardo, they want a lot. And the Marlins are in big position, and he's got 3 years to go before he's a free agent. And you got Cabrera, who's basically just an average pitcher anyway. Do you want to give up a ton for him? Probably not. Not a lot, unless you want to go spend the money for Snell. And to this point, doesn't appear that they do. Not a ton of great options.
Well, that's the interesting part, right, John? Because you did trade for Juan Soto, you did get Alex Verdugo.
Right.
You're appearing to be all in, and that's all we
Perfect.
keep
Glad
hearing.
you
The
made
Yankee,
that point. The window is now, right? The window's now. You got your 1 year for sure with Soto. Obviously, you're going to try to keep him. Judge is in his prime. Rizzo, potentially this is his last year
yep,
with the Yankees.
Gleyber
He may
Torres.
another year. You got Torres. You've got other free agents on that team. Got an older team. I mean, if you don't enhance this rotation and you just hope that Cole's going to be back and he's going to be himself, I mean, they don't look like it. I mean, when I was there a few weeks ago, everything was positive, everything was great, as it is in most camps. But I mean, reasonably so. Soto's doing fantastic. They've got Judge on the team. Cole's the number one starter. They got other talent. We're thinking Rodon's got to be better than he was. Cortez is looking a little bit better. Stroman's looking really good. Things have changed, obviously, and right now, this Cole issue is huge, and they do need to address it beyond the fact that they got better news than they thought. They still have an issue here with that rotation depth.
Yep, it really is, and I'll be interested to see how they either address it or they run with what they got, and then I'm sure Yankees fans will give them a warm welcome at home. But that's besides the point. John, let's go to the other team in New York, the New York Mets. We got the news today from David Stern speaking to the media saying that Kodai Senga is going to be shut down again for another additional 7 to 10 days before he picks up a baseball and then goes through another scan of imaging to make sure he's all clear. Is there real risk here, or I guess not risk, I should say, but more concern about Kodai Senga and what he's going through here in spring training, missing most of it with this shoulder injury?
Yeah, I mean, anytime it's shoulder and you hear capsule, you got to be concerned. I mean, that's a tricky one. It's not elbow, shoulder is tougher. Now we've got a bit of a setback here. I mean, the guy was fantastic last year. Pitched like number one, their number one, even though he came in as the number 3 behind 2 Hall of Famers, was really great. But they knew going in to get him at $75 million over 5 years, a guy with ace potential, and he did show that last year. There were issues. I mean, they had to really go over that, and I think that really affected the outcome. I mean, you saw what another great Japanese pitcher got 325 million, right? For more than 4 times as much money, who had a better picture of his arm. And obviously, there was concern going in. He pitched right through everything last year. There was no issue, asymptomatic, all good. And I mean, it shouldn't be a shock. First of all, there's so many pitching injuries now.
Yeah.
Every team seems to be affected. But for a guy who had that bad picture, and again, we don't know all the details of it, but we did report that at the Post, and they didn't deny it. And now he's got an injury. So there definitely was an issue. And now, unfortunately, it has come to roost.
Yeah. And again, you have to wait and see what happens with him and his rehab, obviously, before he can come back and make an impact for the Mets rotation. Then let's talk about, you reported last week that the Mets have been in contact recently with JD Martinez. He's another big name free agents still out there unsigned. We're less than 2 weeks from opening day. Is there a possibility that the Mets can make a deal happen and sign the DH to help protect that lineup and lengthen that lineup and give some protection to Pete Alonso?
Yeah, I mean, I like that word possibility. That's always a good word, right? That gives you an out because we don't know. It's a fluid situation. Obviously, he turned down the 15 million or so from the Giants, did not want to go there to the ballpark. I have heard JD Martinez likes the idea of the Mets, likes the idea of the Angels. Both those teams are in contact now from the, and I was actually just in Tempe down the road this way. That was about, I don't know, 40 minutes away. I don't know how many miles, but it was down the road that way. And Mike Trout said to me, he's still trying to pitch in there to get some more players. He's optimistic about their young team, but he's certainly talking to Artie Moreno, the Angels owner, and other higher ups there about bringing in more talent. And he specifically mentioned, hey, there are guys out there with 30 home runs. Well, that had to be JD Martinez. So you know who he wants for the Angels. If you have the choice, Angels or Mets, at this moment, the Mets, even with the injury to Senga, even with the idea that they've cut back, they probably got a better playoff chance than the Angels. So I think they'd have a good shot at it. Steve Cohen, as we reported, has given the go-ahead to try to bring him in. And, I do think they are a fit, probably better than the Angels. And look, the Angels have guys who may need that DH spot, particularly Rendon, maybe Trout to a degree. But the Mets, Vientos is having a decent spring.
Yeah.
He could potentially be that number 5 hitter. So could Alvarez, but really none of them are the proof. JD Martinez had over 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs,
All-star.
had a 134 cleanup hitter on the NL All-Star team, 134 OPS plus last year, which is basically his career mark of 133. This is an outstanding professional hitter and would give true protection behind Pete Alonso, which really he has not had. And maybe Alvarez will be the guy. It's hard to have it be the catcher because, frankly, the catcher's not playing anywhere near 162 games unless he's a very unusual catcher. Maybe Real Muto might, but there really isn't any other catcher playing even close to 140 games.
Yeah, and what's interesting is if you do bring in a guy like Martinez, it's not like he needs to be built up like a pitcher. He can make an impact on opening day if you can get him in the building within the next week or so. So, again, another situation I'm sure, at least I'm assuming here, some of these guys are going to get signed hopefully in the next week or so because time is starting to run out here, John. We're really close to for opening day here for all of MLB.
Absolutely. Right. It's getting late. Spring started out great, was full of hope. We were so excited about both teams. I think we still are, but just a lot of issues have cropped up in spring training locally. It's unfortunate. Good for the Yankees that the news was a little bit better last night than it had been the night before. But as we said, they still need to do something about that rotation. It is not deep enough. I don't know how many times I have to say that. It's like a series. It's every few days I'm writing an article about this, but they're not taking my advice to this point. But they will. They have to get somebody. You cannot go in there with this rotation and that's it at this point.
And I think the Yankees know that. Just to wrap all this up, I think they knew that, considering how invested they were in bringing Yamamoto in here, and they obviously fell short of that, but they knew they needed to get another legitimate starter on this rotation. Fair. We'll see how it plays out. John, you're the man. Appreciate you as always. I know you're super busy right now with spring training wrapping up here soon. And thanks for giving us some time, man, and giving us all the latest with the Cole stuff and everything else around baseball, man.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.